I never thought I'd hear those words from the man I built an empire with. Spat like venom in a room full of suits who pretended not to notice the way his voice dripped with condescension. Go back to your desk. Honey, Mark said, loud enough for the echoes to bounce off the glass walls of our corner office, his finger jabbing toward the door like I was some intern who'd forgotten her place. But that wasn't the shocking part. What came next was me smiling back. Because in that split second, I decided his throne was about to crumble. And I'd be the one handing him the match. It started 6 months earlier. In the humid haze of a San Francisco summer that felt more like a pressure cooker for all the deals we were closing at Apex Dynamics. Mark and I had clawed our way up from nothing, me with my algorithms that predicted market crashes before the suits even smelled the smoke. Him with that silver-tongued charm that sealed venture capital like it was cheap whiskey. We were the power couple of Silicon Valley. The ones whispered about at TechCrunch disrupt afterparties. Eliana Reyes, the quiet genius behind the code, and Mark Harlan, the visionary CEO who made it all sing. Our wedding photo still hung in the lobby, us grinning like we'd conquered the world. Hell, we had. But power like that? It ferments into something rotten if you don't watch it. Mark started changing after the Series C round. Bigger office, bigger ego, bigger appetites. Late nights at the office turned into networking at rooftop bars in Soma, where the air smelled of overpriced IPAs and desperation. I'd catch him scrolling through his phone at 2 a.m., thumb hovering over messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Just investors. Babe, he'd say, rolling over to claim his half of the king-sized bed we bought with our first bonus. I believed him, because loving him meant ignoring the cracks. The way his eyes lingered on the new hire, Vanessa, with her yoga-toned legs and laugh like wind chimes in a storm. Vanessa was 28, fresh out of Stanford's MBA program, all glossy LinkedIn ambition and zero scars. She started as a junior analyst in my division, crunching data for the AI suite I'd coded from scratch, the one that scraped petabytes of financial feeds to flag anomalies before they blew up a portfolio. I mentored her. Late afternoons in the break room with cold brew and white bards, sketching out neural nets like we were plotting world domination. She called me Eli, short and sweet, like we were sisters. Mark noticed her first. Of course. She's got fire, he told me over steak at Harris's that night, his fork pausing midair. I nodded. Proud. Because back then, I thought fire was something we all shared. The first betrayal wasn't the affair. I could have forgiven that. Maybe. In the hazy logic of hurt spouses who cling to alibis. No. It was the cover-up. The way he dragged me into his mess and left me holding the bag. It happened during the Q3 earnings call, when our stock was riding high on hype about the AI's predictive edge. We'd just landed a deal with Vanguard, funneling millions into our black box models. But Mark, in his infinite wisdom, decided to juice the numbers. Not outright fraud, nothing so sloppy, but creative accounting, shifting revenues from R&D slush funds to make the quarter pop like champagne at a launch party. He looped in Vanessa because she was discreet, and she looped in me because, well, I was the one who owned the code that made it all look legit. I found out by accident, pulling an all-nighter to debug a glitch in the anomaly detector. The logs showed unauthorized tweaks, timestamps from Mark's admin account, rerouting data streams through offshore servers I'd never greenlit. My stomach dropped like an elevator cable snapping. I confronted him the next morning in his office. Door locked. Voice low. What the hell is this? Mark? We're talking SEC violations here. He leaned back in his Eames chair. that boyish grin flashing like we just pulled off a prank. Relax.
Ellie.
It's aggressive forecasting. Everyone does it. Keeps the sharks at bay. Aggressive forecasting. That's what he called laundering money through ghost accounts to inflate EPS by 15%. I should have walked then, but he pulled me close. Hands on my waist, whispering about our future. Private jets to Tahoe. A house in Atherton with a pool for the kids we kept postponing. We're in this together, he said. Lies taste like rust in your throat. Vanessa knew. Of course. She was the one executing the transfers. Her sleek fingers flying over keyboards while Mark played golf with the board. When I pressed her, she crumbled like cheap pastry, tears smudging her mascara in the ladies' room. He said it was standard, she sobbed. Said you'd back it up if anyone asked.
Me. The fall guy.
Because who would suspect the loyal wife? The tech whisperer who'd never taken a sick day? Mark had buried the real trail in layers of code only I could unravel, making it look like my oversight. Plausible deniability, he called it later. Over whiskey in our living room. As if we were spies in a Le Carre novel. I stared at the bay windows overlooking the Golden Gate, fog rolling in like a shroud, and wondered how I'd become the villain in my own story. The audit hit like a freight train 2 weeks later. Deloitte swooped in, tipped off by an anonymous whistleblower, Vanessa, hedging her bets. I later learned. The boardroom turned into a war zone. Spreadsheets splayed like autopsy photos. Lawyers in $1,000 brogues pacing like hyenas. Mark played the shocked patriarch. Hands steepled. Voice steady as he pointed fingers my way. Eliana handles the core systems. If there's an irregularity, it's her domain. I sat there, heart hammering against my ribs, watching the men in the room nod like it made perfect sense. The woman behind the curtain, pulling levers she didn't even know were rigged. They suspended me on the spot, paid leave. They called it, but it felt like exile. Go home, Eli, Mark murmured as the doors hissed shut behind me. We'll fix this. Fix it. That's what he said while he was fucking Vanessa in our bed. Her perfume lingering on the sheets like a crime scene. I found out that night, walking in early from a therapy session that was really just me driving aimlessly through the Presidio. Foghorns moaning like lost souls. The sounds hit me first, gasps and grunts echoing down the hallway from our master suite. I froze in the foyer, purse slipping from my shoulder, the marble floor cold under my heels. Pushed the door open just enough to see, her legs wrapped around him. His head thrown back in that ecstasy I'd once mistaken for passion. They didn't hear me leave. Or if they did, they didn't care. Rage isn't hot, it's a cold burn, settling in your veins like antifreeze. I didn't scream or throw things. I went to the guest room, booted up my laptop, and started digging. Mark thought he knew my code, but he'd always underestimated the backdoors I'd woven in for security. I told myself, but really, for control. Layers of encryption, tripwires that logged every access, every tweak. I pulled the threads, timestamps tying the transfers to his VPN, emails from his burner account to Vanessa's offshore contact, even voice memos where he coached her on the forecasting. It was all there, a digital noose he'd tied himself. But revenge isn't a solo act in this town. Silicon Valley runs on alliances, on who you know at Y Combinator Mixers or Sequoia Happy Hours. I reached out to Lena, my old roommate from Caltech, now a partner at a boutique VC firm with a nose for blood in the water. We met at a dive bar in the Mission, neon signs buzzing like angry wasps, tacos going cold on the table. "He's burying you to save his ass," she said, scrolling through the files I'd airdropped. "But this is dynamite. You leak it right, and Apex implodes. Leak it." The word hung between us, tasting like treason. Because Apex wasn't just Mark's baby, it was mine too. Thousands of jobs, dreams I'd coded into existence. Destroy it, and I'd be the monster. I wrestled with that for days, pacing our empty house while Mark worked late. Sleepless nights staring at the ceiling fan, its blades chopping shadows like guillotines. Was I the betrayed wife or the corporate saboteur? The lines blurred in the dark. Vanessa texted me once, "I'm sorry."
Ellie.
He made me, but I blocked her, the screen blurring with unshed tears. Mark came home reeking of her Chanel, collapsing beside me with a sigh. "Rough day."
Babe.
The auditors are circling. I lay still, pretending sleep, my mind a storm of what-ifs. What if I confronted him? What if I played along? Rebuilt from the ashes? But every scenario looped back to that boardroom. His voice, it's her domain. The decision crystallized on a rainy Thursday. Thunder rumbling over the bay, like God's own displeasure. I was in the kitchen, coffee going bitter in the pot, when my phone buzzed with a board invite, emergency meeting, my name on the agenda as key witness. They were going to throw me to the wolves, make an example to calm the investors. I called Lena from the car, wipers slapping rhythmically. "Do it," I said. "But make it hurt." She laughed, low and knowing. "Girl, by Monday, his arrogance is going to cost them everything." The leak dropped like a nuke at dawn. Lena funneled the docs to a tech blogger at the information, redacted just enough to protect me, but raw enough to scorch. By 9 a.m., Twitter was ablaze. ApexGate trending. Screenshots of Mark's emails plastered like wanted posters. The stock plummeted 20% before lunch. Analysts on CNBC calling it a masterclass in hubris. I watched from a coffee shop in No Valley, anonymous in a corner booth, as the world tore him apart. Vanessa's LinkedIn went dark. Rumors swirled. She was holed up in her parents' place in Marin, dodging reporters. Mark called me 20 times that day. Voicemails escalating from confusion to fury. "What did you do?"
Eli?
Jesus Christ. The 21st was a sob, raw and broken. "I love you. We can fix this. Fix this." There it was again. His favorite lie. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to the office. Badge still active because no one had thought to deactivate it yet. The lobby was a circus. Protesters with signs reading code or crook. Security scrambling. I slipped past, elevator dinging like a countdown. The boardroom was chaos when I walked in, phones ringing off hooks. Ties askew. Mark at the head of the table, face ashen as he barked orders. They all froze when they saw me, a ghost in the doorway. Vanessa was there too, huddled in a chair, eyes red-rimmed. Mark's gaze locked on mine, pleading and hateful all at once. "Eliana," he started, but I cut him off, striding to the table, plugging my thumb drive into the projector. "Let's talk about domains," I said, voice steady as the first slide bloomed, his emails, the logs. The voice memos transcribed in stark black and white. Gasps rippled through the room. Vanessa whimpered. Mark lunged for the cord, but security, my call to Lena's contact, hauled him back. "You bitch," he hissed. Close enough, I could smell the fierce sweat. After everything, the board erupted, calls for his resignation. Lawsuits flying like confetti. I stood there, projector humming, as the empire we'd built dissolved in pixels. But as the dust settled, doubt crept in. Was this justice or just spite? The company teetered, layoffs looming like storm clouds. Employees I'd mentored, coders who'd idolized us, now jobless because of my hand on the trigger. Vanessa fled the room in tears, and part of me ached for her, the girl who'd been played as badly as me. Hours later, as cops escorted Mark out in cuffs, insider trading charges pending, he turned at the elevator, eyes boring into mine. You think you won? This kills us all. The doors closed, and I was alone in the hallway, the weight of it crashing down. Victory tasted like ash. The fallout hit like aftershocks, rippling through every corner of my life with the precision of one of my own algorithms. By evening, our house was a war zone of reporters camped on the manicured lawn, drones buzzing overhead like mechanical vultures. I barricaded myself inside, blinds drawn, the hum of the fridge the only sound besides my ragged breaths. Mark's last words echoed. This kills us all. He wasn't wrong. Apex's stock cratered another 30% overnight, wiping out billions in market cap. The board ousted him in an emergency vote. Vanessa, too, her golden ticket revoked. Her Stanford dreams curdled into scandal.
But me?
They hailed me as the whistleblower, the brave insider who'd saved the company from total collapse. Lena's spin machine worked overtime. Op-eds in Wired calling me Silicon Valley's conscience, podcast invites from How I Built This knockoffs.
Hero.
Villain. It depended on the headline. I didn't feel like either. Sleepless in the guest room, I'd scroll through employee Slack channels, Ghost Towns Now, flooded with memes of Mark's smug face photoshopped onto sinking ships. Thanks for nothing, Eli. One read. From Jamal, the junior dev I'd poached from Google. Lost my green card shot because of your truth bomb. Guilt gnawed at me, sharp as broken glass. I'd coded Apex's heart, trained its AIs to outsmart the market, but in the end, I'd weaponized it against my own creation. Was I avenging betrayal? Or just torching the bridge because I couldn't cross it anymore? Mark's arraignment was a circus, splashed across every feed from Fox Business to TikTok breakdowns. I watched from a burner laptop in a Bernal Heights cafe, steam from my latte fogging the screen. He looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit, hair unkempt, that charm eroded to plea bargain desperation. His lawyer spun it as overzealous innovation, but the judge wasn't buying, remanded without bail. Flight risk to our Cayman accounts. Vanessa testified remotely, voice quavering over video link, painting him as the puppet master. He pressured me, she said, dabbing at phantom tears. Said it was for the greater good. The greater good. Mark's mantra, the one he'd whispered during our honeymoon in Big Sur. Waves crashing below as we dreamed of IPO glory. After the hearing, she reached out, not a text, but a handwritten note slipped under my door by some PI flunky. I never wanted to hurt you, Eli. He lied to us both. Can we talk? I crumpled it, but the words lingered, a splinter under my skin. Hurt me? She'd slept in my bed, worn my robe, laughed at my jokes over brunch while plotting my downfall. Yet there she was, ruined too, fired, blackballed, her Insta frozen on a Bora Bora Vaki that now screamed tone deaf. Part of me pitied her, the ingenue caught in the crossfire. The rest wanted to key her Prius. Lena dragged me to a debrief at her office in the Salesforce Tower. All glass and ambition. Views that made you feel invincible. "You're free now," she said, pouring Grey Goose into tumblers. "Start your own thing, Reyes AI, predictive ethics, or whatever. VCs are circling."
Free.
The word mocked me. I was untethered, adrift in a sea of NDAs and non-competes, my non-disclosure gagging any full confession. And the house? Foreclosure loomed. Mark's creative accounting had funneled our joint savings into Apex slush. I sold the wedding china on Craigslist. Boxed up photos of us at Burning Man. Faces painted like warriors. Warriors. What a joke. The twist came on a crisp October morning. Fog burning off the bay as I jogged the Embarcadero. Earbuds blasting Phoebe Bridgers to drown the noise. My phone vibrated, unknown number. Voicemail waiting. Mark's voice. Hoarse from county lockup. "Eli, you gotta hear this. It's not what you think. Call the lawyer. Please." I deleted it, but it burrowed. A worm in my resolve. That night, curiosity won. I dialed the public defender's office. Voice disguised as concern. "Tell Harlan his wife's listening." The call lasted 17 minutes, but it rewired my brain. Mark hadn't started the cooking alone. It was the board, old money vultures from East Coast firms, demanding quarterly pops to justify their stakes. He'd resisted at first, until they dangled blackmail, dirt on me, from Caltech days. I'd hacked a rival's server freshman year. A dumb prank to prove a point, expelled quietly with records sealed. But they dug it up, leveraged it like a loaded gun. "They said they'd bury you," he rasped over the line. "I took the hit to protect us."
The affair.
That was their plant. Vanessa was wired. Reporting back. Lies, or the mother of all twists. My hands shook as I hung up, staring at the city lights from my balcony. If true, I'd avenged the wrong betrayal. Destroyed him to save a ghost. I drove to county the next day. Visitor's pass clipped to my lapel. Heart a jackhammer. Mark looked wrecked through the plexiglass, scruff shadowing his jaw. "Believe me now?" he asked, receiver pressed to his ear like a lifeline. I searched his eyes, those eyes I'd trusted for a decade, and saw fractures. Not fabrication. He slid papers under the partition, board emails, timestamps matching the leaks. Vanessa's handler listed as a consultant from a Delaware shell. It checked out, cross-referenced with my old logs. The greater good, twisted into a noose for all of us. But belief didn't erase the rage. "You let them frame me," I whispered, voice cracking. "Let me carry your sins." He nodded, tears streaking. I thought I could fix it. Thought we were unbreakable. Unbreakable. We'd said that on our vows. Under oaks in Napa, wine staining our lips. Now, it was shards. Leaving the jail, the world tilted. Heroes flipped to fools. Victims to accomplices. I could recant. Go public with the board's rot. Topple the real kings. Or let it lie. Claim my win. Build on the ruins. Lena called as I merged onto 101. Horns blaring. Next move.
Boss.
I didn't answer. The road stretched north, toward redwoods that swallowed secrets whole. The redwoods didn't swallow anything, they just loomed, ancient and indifferent, as I ditched the highway for a cabin rental in the Lost Coast. where cell service flickered like a bad connection. 3 days of solitude, chopping wood till my palms blistered. Waves pounding black sand beaches till my thoughts drowned in the roar. Mark's papers burned a hole in my backpack, evidence that could exonerate him. Indict the board. Rewrite the narrative. But every scenario splintered. Free him. And I forgave the affair. The condescension. The honey that dripped like acid. Expose the board. And apex rose from ashes under new blood. Me at the helm? Or vanished. Jobs scattered like confetti in a recession wind. Back in the city, the air crackled with pre-election tension, billboards screaming about corporate greed as midterms loomed. Kamala posters peeling in the mission's graffiti haze. I holed up in a sublet in Hayes Valley. Subletting anonymity. IKEA furniture smelling of fresh starts. Lena pushed, consulting gig at Kleiner Perkins. 6 figures.
Equity.
I nodded through meetings, pitching ethical AI frameworks with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. But nights were interrogations, poring over Mark's docs by desk lamp, cross-checking with dark web forums where ex-apexers vented. Threads confirmed it. Board whispers of the Caltech incident. Vanessa's consultant fees routed through the same Cayman veins. The real gut punch landed via email. Anonymous sender. A zip file of videos. Vanessa. Mic'd up in a Soma lounge. Laughing with a silver-haired board lizard named Hargrove. She suspects nothing, she cooed. Martini glass sweating. Mark's putty. Thinks he's protecting her. Cut to another, her in my office. Planting the backdoor code while I stepped out for coffee. My stomach revolted. I dry-heaved over the sink. Faucet blasting cold. Betrayal squared. Layered like an onion that peeled to nothing but rot. But why leak it to me now? Payoff for silence? Or a desperate ally? Flipping sides in the 11th hour? I met her at a neutral spot, a talk area in the outer sunset, fog rolling in off the Pacific like a curtain call. Vanessa looked hollowed out, roots showing in her highlights, hoodie swallowing her frame. I didn't want this, she started, picking at carnitas. Hargrove approached me at an alumni mixer. Said Mark was unstable. Needed guidance. Promise me equity if I... Influenced. Code for seduction. Sabotage. The oldest play in the patriarchal playbook. She slid a USB across the table. More files. Audio of board calls plotting the frame job. They're coming for you next. The whistleblower angle? It's a trap. Paint you as disgruntled ex. Make the leak look personal. Personal.
It was
bone deep. But her eyes, wide, haunted, mirrored my own fracture. Why tell me? I asked, voice flat. She shrugged, tears salting her chips.
guilt. And
I liked you.
Ellie.
Before all this. Liked me. Past tense. Like we'd been friends in a rom-com. Not pawns in a chess game of egos. I pocketed the drive, left cash for the bill, walked into the mist without looking back. Trust was a currency I'd spent dry. The plan coalesced over IPAs at a dive and dog patch. Lena across the scarred booth. Her laugh cutting the jukebox twang. Full scorched earth, she said, sketching org charts on a napkin. We drop everything, board emails, videos, the works. Time it for the earnings call tomorrow. SEC wet dream. Tomorrow. My pulse thrummed, adrenaline sharp as a fresh tattoo. But doubt lingered. Hargrove and his ilk had tentacles, lobbyists in D.C., senators on speed dial. Expose them. And I'd need more than code. I'd need armor. That night, I visited Mark again. Plexiglass a colder barrier than before. It's bigger than us, I said, sliding my copies under. He scanned them, jaw tightening. Hargrove. That son of a... cut off by the guard's bang on the door. We go public together, I pressed. Your plea. My testimony. Apex gets cleaned, or it burns. He leaned in, breath fogging the divide. And us, after?
Us.
The word hung, fragile as rice paper. I didn't answer. The buzzer sounded. Time up. Earnings call dawned gray and relentless. Rain sheeting the transbay windows as I slipped into Apex's HQ, backdoor access via a forgotten service code. The boardroom thrummed with tension. Hargrove at the podium, droning about strategic pivots, sweat beading under Klieg lights for the virtual feed. I crouched in the AV closet, laptop tethered to the stream. Heart a war drum. Lena's script glowed on screen. Upload sequence primed. Anonymous proxy shielding me. One click, and the Empire's underbelly flashed live, emails scrolling like stock tickers. Videos piping audio of Hargrove's drawl. Frame the wife. She's collateral. The feed froze, then fractured. Chaos erupted. Shouts. Laptops slamming. Hargrove's face purpling as he yanked cords. Technical glitch, he bellowed. But it was too late. Viewers numbered in thousands. Screenshots already viral. Apex Deep State trended. CNBC cutting in with breaking chirons. I slipped out amid the scrum. Badge discarded in a trash chute, emerging into the downpour like a baptism. By noon, resignations cascaded. Hargrove first, then the cabal, parachuting golden into consultancies. Apex's board dissolved. Interim trustees calling an all-hands. Rebirth under ethical leadership. My phone buzzed, Lena. You're in. If you want it. Want it? The question echoed as I drove south. Wipers battling the storm. Mark's release hearing was expedited. Charges downgraded to misdemeanor oversight on a technicality. His cooperation. My affidavits. I waited outside the courthouse in Daly City. Fog muting the strip malls. When he emerged, suit rumpled. Free but frayed. He spotted me, hesitated, then crossed the lot slow as an old man. You did it, he said. Voice rough. Saved us.
Us.
Again. I handed him the keys to the Subaru, our old beater. Spared the repo. Not us.
Mark.
Apex.
Me.
He nodded, eyes tracing my face like memorizing a map. What now? What now? The twist-eyed engineer left no clean lines, company salvaged. But scarred, villains scattered. But not slain, us. Ghosts in the machine. I could rebuild with him. Phoenix from the fraud or walk. Let the code rewrite itself without his bugs. Fight for it, I said finally. Rain dripping from my hood. Earn it this time. He reached for my hand. I let him. Just for a beat. Before pulling back. The highway called. Endless black ribbon toward whatever horizon held no more desks. No more honeys. Behind me, sirens wailed, another deal closing. Another betrayal brewing. In Silicon Valley, revenge was just the debug before the next crash. But as I merged into traffic, rear view shrinking the life we'd torched, a smile cracked small, sharp, mine alone. They'd never see it coming. Epilogues in this town aren't tidy. They're beta tests, buggy and prone to crashes. 6 months post-leak. Apex rebooted under my interim CEO gig, Lena's nudge turning into a board vote. My conscience repackaged as visionary grit. The office hummed with fresh blood, coders from Berkeley hackathons, analysts poached from fintech startups, all buzzing about transparent AI like it was the second coming. Stock stabilized at a humble 40% of peak. But sustainable, my algorithms tweaked for audits, not illusions. We pivoted to ethical consulting, flagging corporate rot before it metastasized. Irony? My revenge birthed a watchdog from the wolf. Mark crashed on the sublet couch those first weeks. A shadow in sweatpants, brewing coffee strong as his regrets. We didn't talk love, too raw, like picking at stitches, but logistics, his community service at a no-valley nonprofit, coding apps for foster kids, my 70-hour marathons dodging Hargrove's libel suits from his Beltway bunker. Vanessa vanished into witness protection light, a relocation grant from the DA.
New name in Austin.
Whispering heads about her tell-all pod that never dropped.
Pity? Nah.
She'd earned her fade to black. The board remnants slithered into obscurity. Hargrove indicted on racketeering. His Hamptons estate auction for pennies. Others lawyered up, settling class actions that drained their 401(k)s. I testified in D.C. Fluorescent hearings where senators grilled me on innovation versus integrity, my voice steady under C-SPAN lights. Code doesn't lie, I said, staring down the suits. People do. Clips went viral. My face on Forbes 30 under 40 Redux, traitor or trailblazer. Readers picked sides in comments. Endless threads debating if I'd saved jobs or slaughtered them. Doubt? It lingered. A glitch in the matrix. Late nights in the corner office, mine now, with a view that mocked the old one. I'd replay the what-ifs. What if I'd confronted Mark pre-audit, hashed it in therapy instead of torches? What if Vanessa's influence had been mine? Back when ambition burned hotter than betrayal. The Caltech hack haunted too, my original sin. The flaw that let them leverage us. I'd buried it deeper than Mark ever knew. A rootkit in my psyche.
Clean now.
Or just patched, waiting for the next exploit? The real twist hit at the holiday party. String lights twinkling over Prosecco flutes in the revamped lobby. Jamal cornered me by the charcuterie. His green card safe in a rival gig. Heard you pulled strings for my visa extension, he said. Clinking glasses. After everything? I shrugged. Talent's talent. But inside, the math tallied. My leak cost him weeks of panic. But my fix bought his future. Collateral calculus. Silicon style. No one's ledger balance clean. Mark and I, we danced around reunion. Test drives in therapy. Couple sessions in Pacific Heights. Dissecting the honey moment like surgeons. Patriarchal reflex, the shrink called it. But I saw arrogance. The slow poison of unchecked power. He owned it. Mostly, apologies over dim sum in Chinatown. Hands across the table steady for once. Sex crept back tentative. Bodies remembering rhythms the heart had forgot. But trust? A rebuild. Brick by wary brick. Spring brought the IPO relaunch, scaled back.
But ours.
Bell ringing on the NASDAQ floor. Confetti raining as tickers flashed Apex plus 12%. Mark stood beside me in the feed, arm brushing mine. No longer the king, but the consort. Cameras caught it. My smile. Tight but true. His nod. Humble. Headlines crowed, power couples come back, ignoring the graves we dug. Readers argued in bars from Brooklyn to the Valley, redemption arc or cynical reboot, heroic whistleblower or opportunistic climber. I didn't care. As we flew back first class, his treat. Clean money. I stared at the patchwork below. Freeways like circuits. Cities pulsing data. Revenge hadn't healed. It had hollowed. Then refilled with sharper edges. Mark squeezed my hand. Proud of you.
Eli.
No, honey. Progress. But in the quiet, turbulence jostling the cabin, I wondered, was the twist that no one won? Or that we'd all lost just enough to start even? Apex thrived, but scarred my code. Vigilant now, scanning for the next mark, the next me. And if the board's ghost circled back, I'd be ready. Fingers on the keys. In the end, Silicon Valley doesn't do happy, it does beta. Ours was live. Crashes inevitable. Upgrades eternal. I'd take it, bugs and all, over the desk I once returned to. Because the view from the top, it's always been about who you push off to see it clear.